Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint, Office 365 and Azure Community webinar, the first of a series of 8 webinars for SharePoint Week. My name is Orla and I'm delighted to be joined by Daniel Anderson, who will present the topic, Mastering Microsoft Loop, Your Modern Collaborative Canvas. Remember to join in the conversation about today's webinar and more on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC23. Don't forget to check out the Resource Centre. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. Simply visit sharepointeurope.com and click the content link at the top. Continue your learning by joining us for our next webinar. That's part of SharePoint Week, SharePoint Week mini webinars, which take place tomorrow, Tuesday, May 9th, from 11 to 12 CEST. This webinar consists of a series of 3 mini webinars, each 15 minutes long. For full details, please check out sharepointeurope.com/SharePoint-week. The SPC23 program is now available. This program has relevant topics being presented by experienced and exciting speakers in the Microsoft 365 and Azure space. Across 4 days, there will be over 100 world-class speakers, 120 sessions, great networking, connection, parties, great food, a beautiful and accessible capital city, and more. Prepare to hear the latest on Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Viva, Copilot, Search, AI, DevOps, SPFX, and not forgetting the all-important Azure and security sessions. Further sessions will be added to the program throughout the year, ensuring we have the latest and most relevant sessions post-Ignite 2023. We hope you find something on this program that could have a positive impact on your learning, your connections, your careers, and your customers. Be sure to get your tickets now and look for the best deal possible. Please visit sharepointeurope.com conference/schedule/2023 to view the full program. The early bird sale for this year's European Power Platform Conference is almost over. We have now sold out on 3-day tickets for the European Power Platform Conference in 2023, but you can still get your hands on some 2-day tickets while they're still available. The European Power Platform Conference dives into Microsoft's Power Platform stack and provides a host of professional development opportunities, which includes 3 inspirational keynotes, 6 expert full-day tutorials, 85 specialist sessions delivered by global Power Platform experts and Microsoft corporate and community leaders. Gain valuable insights and hear the latest innovations across Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, Power Pages, and Dynamics. Be sure to visit sharepointeurope.com/European/power-platform-conference-pricing to get the best deal on your tickets. After the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any question you have into the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. And Daniel has also let us know that if you have questions throughout the presentation, you can put them in and we'll ask them if they're relevant to the topic. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Centre, and you'll be notified by email when it's available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our presenter, Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hello there, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are located. Let me just show my screen and make sure that I am looking at the right one, and I am. Hello and welcome. Yes, my name is Daniel Anderson, and yes, good morning, good afternoon, well, good evening where I am, 9 p.m. here down here in Melbourne, Australia. Thanks all for jumping on. As we said, look, I like to keep these things interactive. If you do have questions, feel free to pop them through, and if we do have time, we will answer them. If not, then I'll take them offline and I can answer them after the fact as well. So this session, obviously looking at the title, Mastering Microsoft Loop, the new kid on the block, I guess you could say, in our collaborative tool set in Microsoft 365. And look, I understand that a lot of you in the audience may not have even seen Loop or had access to Microsoft Loop or anything like that. So this is going to be hopefully, not shooting myself in the foot here, doing a live demos and lots of demonstrations and lots of live experiences as we work through this. So not too much of the slides going through. So look, Microsoft Loop is a really transform, and once you start to utilize this, not just with yourself but with your team as well, really is going to be the next generation transformative co-creation experience that you're going to have. It is going to allow you to work together at high velocity, bring lots of different resources into the one canvas, and as you'll see shortly, be able to co-create, co-collaborate, but also manage, and we're going to touch on this a little bit later, manage our modern task management as well. A little bit about myself, for those of you that don't know, look, this is just a little bit of a motto of mine. Look, every day I do get to work in this amazing industry with people like yourself and businesses that you work at, where I can really help make a difference in the way that everyday work is experienced. So I truly believe in helping and inspiring businesses and individuals to reevaluate how they operate, communicate, collaborate, function, and just work together. So Microsoft Loop actually fits into that quite well, as you'll see shortly. And I do have, at the start of this year, had probably a crazy ambition or mission, is to try and inspire 1 million individuals and teams or businesses to work better together and scale and grow with Microsoft 365 as well. There are a couple of links there on the socials, so feel free to reach out and connect on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or on YouTube as well. Now, on to today's agenda. We do have quite a bit to get through. We do have an hour, so we will endeavour to get through everything as well as we can. And as I said, if there are questions, feel free to jump in and ask away. If not, if I don't get to them during the session, then I will take them offline. So we're going to start just with a little bit of what is Microsoft Loop for those of you that don't know what it actually is. And then we do need to do a little bit of configuration to actually enable Microsoft Loop. Those of you that may have even tried, you may be getting this, your organization's not enabled to utilize Microsoft Loop. So there are a couple of things we need to do to be able to actually use Microsoft or the Microsoft Loop application. Then we're going to have a look at the components, just the components at this stage across the Microsoft 365 applications, so Teams and Outlook and Microsoft Word, those type of endpoints where we can use Loop components in those applications. And then we're going to jump into the Loop application itself. So take a walk through around the canvas, around workspaces, pages, components, and how they all tie in together. And then looping other people in, so sharing and mentioning people and commenting it as part of our pages in our workspaces. And then on a little bit of a different topic about where are your Loop components? What are these Loop components? Where are they stored? Where are they located? How do I access them? And all of that fun stuff as well. And then the last thing we're going to take a look at is around modern task management. So there is a Loop component that allows us to create yet another task list. So we do have Microsoft To Do and Planner and even Microsoft Lists now for managing tasks. So lots of different ways in which we can do that. So we're going to have a look at how that all ties in together with the new task component. So what actually is Microsoft Loop? Well, it is, as Microsoft say, and you may have seen this in other material across online as well, the next generation transformative co-creation experience that really does bring together not just little groups of people, but entire teams. Things like content and documents and task lists and tables and voting and lots of different things that you can bring into one single canvas across different apps and different devices as well. It does combine a powerful, flexible canvas with these portable little components that you'll see soon that we can extract, and we can move these little components around and really meet people where they decide to work. If you want to start in Teams, we can have a group chat in Teams, and we can have our little component that's living and breathing inside of a group conversation. But if you're more an Outlook person, then you might start your day in Outlook. We can still see that same live component inside the body of an email, for example, and you can interact and take action on that little component at the place where you want to work. So as you see there, they do move freely. They stay in sync across different applications. And there's three main things that really make up the Loop application itself. So we've got components, we've got pages, and we've got workspaces as well, which we will take a look at in just a second. That's enough for the slides right now. So the first thing we're going to take a look at, I'm going to jump out of my slide deck, and we will jump right into a demo of Microsoft Loop. So what we're going to do first is, for those of you, look, not everybody will have access to the admin center, but there are some little things that need to be set up before we can actually access our Loop application, and also how we can control the experiences across different endpoints with Microsoft Loop. So we're here in what's called the Cloud Policy Center of Microsoft 365. I am logged in as a system administrator, so there's some things that we do need to set first. So we need to enable a couple of policies to be able to utilize things first up. So this is actually accessed via config.office.com, and it takes you to this the Cloud Policy Center here. Now, under policy management here, we've got the option or the ability to create a policy. So when we click on create policy, and this is for those of you that do get that your organization's not enabled. Okay, now we can control how this is rolled out. So what we'll see in a second is that we can, probably the best first step, rather than enabling it for your entire organization, is to create a security group and pilot that with people. Get that group of people to become champions of Microsoft Loop, and they can then lead the charge across an organization. So we can say we need to give this a name to start with. So let's just call this enable. Let's just call it enable loop. We can give it a description if we need to, and then we look at the scope. Okay, so the scope here is where we can then specify a group of people that this policy applies to. So we can see here that that is already selected, and we hit next, and then we need to select a group for this policy to apply to. So as we can see here, we've got a few security groups here that we can choose from in this tenant. So if we wanted to enable this just for the engineering team, for example, it's going to pick up that security group. We've got 4 people in here, and we can save that. So this is only going to apply for that group of people. We hit next, and then we have a look at our policies. Now, a quick way to find the policies that relate to Microsoft Loop is simply just search for Loop. Now we can see that we've got 3 policies in play here. So we've got the first one, which is create and view Loop files in Microsoft apps that support Loop. So things like Word and Whiteboard and that type of thing. Now here, what we can see is we've got 3 options. So we've got not configured, enabled, and disabled. So enabled obviously means the Loop experience is available to users. Disabled is it's not available, and if it's not configured, then the loop experience is actually available to users. So even if it's not configured, it is still technically enabled. So we can change that, we can flick that across to enabled, and we'll apply that. And the next one, create and view Loop files in Loop. So this here is the same setting. So we've got not configured, enabled, and disabled. Now enabled is the app is available to users. Disabled is obviously disabled. But the change here is if it's not configured, then the Loop app is not available to anybody. So even if that is not configured, then like we saw before, the other one, it would be available, but this here, the Loop application wouldn't be available if it's not configured. So we'd need to enable that, and we could apply that. Last one here is create and view Loop files in Outlook. Okay, so same thing, enabled, disabled, not configured, and that follows the first example. So when it's enabled, it's available. When it's disabled, it's not available. And when it's not configured, it is actually available and enabled as well. Okay, so those 3 things, we set those. to that group of people, and then we create that policy, and then that would be make the loop application, especially that second policy, available to everybody. All right, so that's the first thing that we need to get up and running before we can actually get access to Microsoft Loop, the application. We'd still have the ability to have the experiences in the other Microsoft 365 applications, but the Loop application itself, we'd need to do that first. So Loop components are, before we jump into the actual the application itself, we're just going to have a look at a couple of different ways in which we can start to use Microsoft Loop components outside of the actual application itself. So we can see here that I'm logged in as Alex. Okay, so here we are. I'm logged in as Alex, but I'm in a Teams context here. So I'm in the US sales team. I'm in the general channel, and when we start a new conversation, we don't actually see a Loop icon down the bottom here. So we can't use Loop components right now at the time of this session in a channel conversation or in a channel context. But what we can do in a chat or a group chat, you'll see that we do get this Loop icon down the bottom here. So we can start to utilize these components inside of a group chat. So I'm logged in as Alex. I can click this button here, and that gives me a list of different Loop components that I can use and I can insert into this group chat. Okay, so we might want to have a voting table. So we might be working on something between Christy Irvin and Joanna and myself, and we want to make a decision. So we can insert a live voting table. Let's call this intranet homepage. So we haven't sent this yet. So you can see here, intranet homepage, we give it a title, we have the idea. All right, so the first thing is the idea, and then we can list out our pros and cons. Keep everyone up to date. And a con could potentially be information overload, let's say. So we've got a couple of pros and cons. We could have events, same thing. Everyone knows what's going on. What is happening? Too much information. So now we've got this. What we can now do, we can list out all of our ideas, pros and cons, and we've got the ability here to be able to vote. Okay, so I'll send this across now, and we're going to post this in our conversation. So now we can see that that has now been embedded and inserted into our Teams chat, and we can use this live, and it's interactive, and we are all in the same experience. So it's live and it is in sync. So if we now add another person to this chat, so I'm just going to add Adele to this chat as well. So let's add Adele, and we want to include all the chat history, and we'll add Adele to this chat. So now that Adele's been added to this chat, let's just say hello to her. So we'll say hello, and we're good to go. So now we've got a few people added to our conversation. So we can then all stay in sync, and then we can also all work on this one component all together. Now, the other great thing about these components is that we can copy these. Now, remembering before that we can extract these little components that are these little widgets, let's say. And what we can do now is, rather than have this in only in the context of a group chat, we can copy this link and we can fire up, let's say we fire up Outlook. So we can take this component, extract it from our Teams group conversation here, And now we might want to send that to somebody else inside the body of an email, for example. We don't want to always have to go to Microsoft Teams. So what we can do here, I know Adele uses Outlook more often than Teams, okay? Yes, that does still happen. People still do use Outlook rather than Teams. So let's go vote on this. So we're going to send her an email. Doesn't check her Teams very much, but does check her email. So we will jump into the body of the email and we will paste that voting table now into the body of the email. You can see there that it's live. All right, it's the same data, it's exactly the same. And now we can email that to Adele. So that means that when Adele opens up her email, and I'll just open up Adele's email over on Adele's screen here, you can see that that email's come in from Alex. Here's the body of the email, and there is the loop component sitting inside the body of the email. I don't have to go to Teams, I don't have to go anywhere else. I can open up my body of my email and I can go, yep, I like that, that's good. And then when I jump back into, you can see that this has now got two votes. I've now got 3 votes, 2 votes on this one. And then we can see that that person, and you can see where Adele is. Adele might even add a new item, and you can see it's all live, it's in sync. Adele's working out of Outlook, and you can see that Alex is working inside of Teams. So these components being able to be portable and flexible and fluid and making them available across different endpoints makes them really powerful, all right? But where are these actually located? So I've just inserted or added a loop component into this Teams group conversation. So this file here, this is actually just a new file. It's a new version of a file. All right, so we've got Word documents, we've got PowerPoint documents, we've got Excel documents, and now we've got basically loop documents. So it's another form of an Office document. So I'm going to jump onto the Microsoft 365 start page here. So I'm just going to give this a refresh. Now, what you'll see here is that I've got this new file. It's called intranet homepage. Now, if we remember back to what we named this component, we actually named it intranet homepage. So there's the actual file here. Now, if we have a look at where the location of this is, if we go open file location, hover over there, what we'll notice is that we enter OneDrive. All right, and you'll see because I have added this in a group conversation inside of Microsoft Teams, we've got this special folder in our OneDrive called Microsoft Teams chat files. And if you upload, and this doesn't even relate to Loop, but if you upload files into a group conversation or a one-to-one conversation, then what happens is those files actually get uploaded and added to this folder inside your OneDrive called Microsoft Teams chat files. So here's our file. All right, so it's actually just another file. We can click it, we can open it. Now it's going to open up, if we didn't have the Loop application available to us, it's going to open up in the web browser. So you can see here, same file, same experience, same information, but just in the browser itself. All right, so this portability of and the fluidity of these files being able to actually meet people where they are is something that's really, really powerful. And that's just one component that we're looking at there, okay? Now, we can also now insert these into Microsoft Word. So we saw before inside of Outlook, we pasted a loop component from somewhere else that was created somewhere else inside the body of an email. But what we can also do inside of Outlook is actually insert a loop component. And you can see that there's an icon up the top here, and we can click and we can drop down, and there we've got our loop components that we can actually start within the body of an email. So we don't have to copy from somewhere else and insert it. We can actually start a loop component from inside of here. And again, as we saw before, we can copy it and we can transport that component around into different endpoints. Okay, really, really flexible, really, really powerful. That then leads us to the loop application. We've got all these loop components that are floating around all over the place. They really need a home to be able to bring them all in together. And that's where the loop application really fits in. So we can bring everything. We've got our own application for gathering all of our information. Let's now take a look at the loop application in action. So to access the loop application, we navigate to this URL here. So it's loop.microsoft.com. So I'm going to close that tab down and I'm just going to open it up fresh. So we navigate to loop.microsoft.com and then we're presented with our start page. Now, the first workspace, and there's always a single workspace that's provisioned for you, and I highly recommend that you keep this workspace. It's really good to test and play around with and things like that, is our getting started workspace. This is our dashboard. We can see over across on the right-hand side here, we can add a new workspace, we can search, we can change the list view. So here we've got a list view instead of a card view. We've got our favorites. Okay, so similar to Microsoft Lists. If we know the Microsoft Lists dashboard, we can favorite and we've got that view of all of our lists. Same thing here. We've got our options here with our three little dots, remembering whenever we click these, there's always a context menu behind it. We can favorite our workspaces, because I can imagine over time, you're going to be a part of or a member of lots of different types of workspaces. So let's open up this workspace and we'll have a look around this getting started workspace. So you can see it's nice and quick and responsive. And here on the left-hand side, and for those of you that use Microsoft, that use OneNote as well, there's a lot of similarities to how this is all structured. So we've got this concept of a workspace. So we'll call that the parent or the big daddy of them all. And then we break things down into pages and then even further into components. So on the left-hand side here, we can see that we've got basically a vertical navigation structure of our pages. We can nest them, we can give them icons and emojis and lots of different things. So we can have, even though it's open and fluid, we can bring in and have our own and create and have a structure based type of navigation here. If we start across the top left here, we've got a notification center. All our loop notifications come in and appear through here. We've got all of them and we've got our unread ones. We can search as well. Okay, so we can search our loop pages across different pages and workspaces as well. We can see here that we've got the active one and we can search across everything. We can also minimize this left-hand tab. So if we're focusing on our work, we're focusing on what is on the page, we can actually hide all that panel and expand this out so that the page itself is basically full screen. So we've got that across there. Across the header here, we can see who is in the workspace or who is in the page. We can see our breadcrumb navigation here. We can also see where this is actually shared. So our shared locations. So when we're sharing things in Teams or in Outlook or wherever we decide to pick this up and share it to, we'll see those locations appear through here. We can then also copy this entire page as a component. So we saw before where we just copied an instance of a voting table. But what we're doing here, we're in the context of a loop page. We can actually copy this whole loop page as a component, and then we can insert that and copy that like we did before in a Teams group chat or in the body of an email. We've got a share button here, so we can share the entire workspace. We can share a link to the page, or we can embed and provide access to this page in those supported applications as a loop component. Up the top here, version history, we can delete, and we've got our settings, and then we've got our profile picture across there. Across on the left, we've got our recent, so this will give us all of our recent loop components, and you can see that we've got our intranet homepage. Even though that we weren't in the loop application itself, we still have our recent. If we start a component from another application, we can still get to that from within the loop app itself. Okay, so you can see here, there's two locations where this component is actually being surfaced or is embedded into. It's in the body of that email, and the subject was vote on this, and it's also in this group chat here between Christy Irwin and the rest of us in there. So we've got a good visibility over where this component actually is. Now, this option here, you can see that we've got a section that's called ideas, and you'll see on the screen we can create a new page or component, and this is for yourself, or you can work together with others. All right, so we don't have to create an entire workspace here. We can create just a new page, and I can share that page with another person or a group of people. All right, you can almost think of it like OneDrive. If I create this, it's just for me until I share it with somebody else. So we can see when I create a new page in here, then it is just for me. Nobody's got access to it. Okay. We'll come back to templates and that in just a minute. So let's jump back into the getting started workspace here. So here we've got our navigation throughout our workspaces. We can create a new workspace or we can browse them all. Here again, we can view by tree or activity, and we've got our plus button where we can create a new page or we can create a new link. Down the left, again, we've got our pages, okay? So we've got our three little dots. We can rename, we can create a new sub page, we can open, we can delete. All right, so if we create a new sub page under here, you can see that we're creating our structure. This is now at a third level, okay? So intranet ideation, for example. And there we've got our sub page underneath creating a component, all right? We can drag and drop these as well. So if we wanted to move these up the tree, we can move these up and we can drag and drop and create all of our structure. Now, onto our pages. Let's go back to what we're going to do first. Let's go back to our dashboard, and we're going to create a brand new workspace. So I'm going to jump back onto workspaces. We'll click the plus button and we'll create a new workspace. We can see we can have our cover page, and then we can give this workspace a title. So we're going to call this intranet working group. We're going to ideate, we're going to plan, we're going to create a plan for our new intranet build. Update our cover. You can see that we've got a growing list of artwork that we can use for our header. Okay, we'll update that, and then we will give it a title, and then we'll also give this a nice little icon. So let's go for party time. All right, so we'll jump in and we'll have the party as the emoji icon. We'll create, and then we're up and running, and we've created a workspace. Now we want to create a page now. So we've got this container, we've got this workspace. Now we need to create our pages. So we can start, and something that's been really beneficial for so many people is, rather than starting from a blank canvas, is to have a starting point. And that's where these templates come into play. So you can see that we're presented with a few templates down the bottom, but we do have an option where we can explore other templates. And there's 10 at the moment. There's 10 templates that we can utilize. Now we can start, if one of these looks pretty good, looks like the topic that we want to do, then we can just start from that page, start from that template, and we've got our structure. So let's create, we're going to be starting a meeting. So we're going to have a kickoff meeting, and we need a place to collaborate and bring all of our notes together. There might be some tasks that we need to assign to people as well. Okay, so we're going to use this template. You can see that it automatically adds our structure here. So we've got meeting notes, we've got the topic, we've got attendees, the agenda we can add there, notes, and here's our tasks and our relevant links. So we've got everything we need to now conduct our meeting, okay? All of these things that are on a page here are what we call components. So when I click inside or on a page, what we can do is we can hit the / and then that gives us all of the components or all of the items that we can add to our page. And you can see there's a few that look familiar like we saw before in Teams and in Outlook. We've got task lists, voting tables, but we've got a lot more as well. We've got images, we've now got labels and dates and emojis. We can mention people. And we've got some formatting, H1, H2, all of that type of thing too. Okay, so let's jump down here. We might add a progress tracker. Okay, so you can see when I select progress tracker that the actual table itself is actually built out for me. All right, we can hover, we can move, and we can move these columns around dynamically. We can just drag and drop and create them the way that we want. We can even hover and we can add more columns if we need to. Okay, so again, really flexible, really quick to be able to start getting up and working. Now you'll see when we jump in, or in this particular column anyway, we can use the @ mention, and we can also then bring in other people into the context of where we're working. All right. Now you'll notice that we haven't actually, nobody's got access to this workspace yet. So when we do, and if we haven't given people access, and we'll go through sharing in just a second, let's say I want to assign something to Megan. We'll get a little notification that we see here that people you've mentioned will only see the comments shared with them, and they won't be notified until we grant them access. So what we can do is actually grant people access on the fly and dynamically. So we could, if we wanted to, just do that for this particular instance, but we'll refrain from that for the moment, and we'll head into sharing. Okay, so I'm going to remove topic, and I'm just going to delete all of this, and we've now got our progress tracker table ready to go. And we can, while we're in the meeting, we can dynamically, and we can add bits and pieces to our progress tracker. You would have also seen this little chat icon here. So we can also then bring other people into the conversation by commenting, and we can also add a little bit of, let's say, personality to our pages here too, by using little emojis as well, or reactions. Let's say we'll call them reactions. So also we can then comment, and we'll use our comments in a second, our tasks table that we've got down the bottom here. So we're working with these little miniature things that we call components that are on a page that are part of a workspace. So this intranet working group, we want to loop other people into the conversation, or into this working group, all right? Because right now, pretty lonely, it's just Alex, right? So let's now share this entire workspace with Adele. We want to bring Adele into the conversation as well, okay? So up under the intranet working group option here, what we might do is, let me just jump back into intranet working group. Now we can see that this workspace has only got one member. So we can click on this one member, and we can invite other people into the entire workspace. So that's all the pages, all the components that are part of this workspace. So you can also see in the top right-hand corner under the share button, we've got the ability to share, again, the entire workspace, just a link to this page, or just we can use this page as a loop component. But I don't want to just share part of it. So I want to share the entire workspace. So I'm going to click on workspace, and I'm going to select Adele. So we'll go and invite Adele. So what Adele will now have, what she will now get, is an invitation to the workspace. So let me just jump over here. We're going to bring Adele's loop application across here. So what she's now got is access. You can see, and let's just jump back onto the workspace homepage. So now she's got her getting started, remembering whenever anybody fires up the loop application to start with, they'll always get this getting started workspace. But now she's also got access to the intranet working group. Now, when she opens up intranet working group, there we've got access to everything that we've got inside of that group. You can see that Alex is in there. We were on the same page, and you can even scroll down and we can see and work live where other people are. Okay, so we can see that, let's say for upcoming, and you'll notice that this is not as Alex, but this is as Adele. So it's live, it's collaborative, and it's in real time and it's in sync. Okay, so now we're good to go. So we've now got another person inside of this workspace. So let's scroll down here. Actually, what we might do is let's just add some notes. So what we'll see also is, we mentioned before about being able to bring everything in together. So it's not just text on a page, it could be documents from another location, it could be other information from around the place. So what we can actually do also is bring in our files. So if we needed to bring, let's say, the European something or other expansion sales pitch into this this canvas, we can search for that. We can then also then just embed that into our page. Then everybody can see that document. We click, we open, and it's going to open that, in our case, this PowerPoint deck. So not only can we have all of our text, but we can then start to bring in all of our resources into the one place. Now, tasks is where it gets really interesting here, because as we know, we've got other task applications. So we've got To-Do, we've got Planner, we've got Microsoft Lists. Some of you might be using Microsoft Lists for task management too, but they're kind of segmented in some way. But where the task list here in Microsoft Loop comes into play, and where that integrates, is actually through Microsoft Planner. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a few tasks. So let's go create IA document. Let's go design homepage wireframe, audiences, and let's go security groups. So what we want to do here is we want to assign these tasks. So let's assign a task to Adele. So I'm going to @mention and I'm going to go Adele. We'll give it a due date. We'll select the date, and then we'll just add another one for Adele as well. She can do both of these. Let's go there. I could just hear some dings because she's been assigned. Now, what happens here when somebody's not part of this workspace? So audiences, Joanna needs to handle all the audiences. So what we can see here is that because she's not part of this workspace, she doesn't have access. So what we can do is we're going to resolve that right here. So we click the plus, and we've got this option to grant access to Joanna. So we can go click, share, notify. Now she'll have access to this page. All right, let's just set this a date and we're good to go. Now, let's jump in the context of Adele now. Jump into our Outlook. Now we can see here, there's our loop component that we had embedded before about the home page. But now you can see that she's just been notified that she's got been assigned some tasks, and it's come from the meeting notes for the upcoming meeting. So that's the name of the page. Alex is assigned, and we've got the tasks. All right. Now, where do these actually show up though? So let me drag this across. What we're going to do now is we're going to jump into Planner. So let's have a look at Microsoft Planner here. So we'll wait for that to load. You can see it's for the first time. Let me just minimize all of this. So what's interesting here is that not only have we got all of our planner plans from other areas, so we've got our market project team, we've got a product launch, we've got logistics, event plan, we've also now got this new tile here, meeting notes for upcoming meeting. So remembering that that's the name of our page. So what's happened here is that it's created an entire planner plan for that particular page because it's got a task list in it. You'll see that there's the tasks, all right? It's in a bucket called tasks. Now I can rename this if I wanted to, but that doesn't sync back. So I could rename this here. Let's say intranet tasks. But what doesn't happen is it doesn't sync back. I didn't say that, but it doesn't. Hopefully in the future it might. But what we can do is we can interact with these tasks in Planner. Okay, so we can change the priority to important. That's now changed to important, and let's say we complete it. Okay, so I'm going to click on audiences and we're done. If I jump back over here, what's going to happen in just a second is that audiences task will then be marked as completed. And the same thing happens this way. So create IA docs. If I jump into Planner, create IA docs here. Let's jump into Loop. We've marked that off as completed. Let me just jump back into Planner. Where am I? There's the tab. You can see that that's now disappeared. All right. So we're marking it as complete in Loop, and then also it marks it off in Planner. You'll also see that that has now come in. We marked that as complete in Planner, and that has come into here as well. And again, from a tasks perspective, if we jump into Microsoft Teams, we've also got this little app that's called Tasks by Planner and To Do in Microsoft Teams. So let's jump in and have a look at that. So we can see, let's open this up. So we'll wait for that to open up. And you can see here that we've got, this is Alex. So if Alex, let me just change context here. I am going to change context across into Adele. Let's do the same thing. Let's jump into Tasks by Planner and To Do. And what we'll see here is that we've got all of everything that's been assigned to Adele from all across different plans, right? But you'll also see here this meeting notes for upcoming meeting. She's still got a task outlying here, but all of that is brought into a single location. Even though we created a task list over in Microsoft To Do, it's now incorporated into our different task management applications. So we can see, tick that off, that's been completed. Okay, we can even, if we needed to or wanted to, add it to My Day, and it would then come into your Microsoft To Do. Okay, so I'm in the context, I'm logged in as Adele, and you can see here that we've now got, those two tasks have been ticked off. This one has just been ticked off inside of Teams, and that will then get marked off into inside of Microsoft Loop as well. Okay, so from a task management perspective, that becomes really, really powerful. Now, again, last thing on tasks, what if we needed to add another task list into the same page? So we hit the / and we hit tasks and we hit task list. So that's now created a new task list. So if I now assign this task to Alex, let's just get him to do something, all right? So we'll get him to do something. We'll set a due date. And what happens inside a planner? All right, so let's just jump across here. Let's just jump back into Planner. I'm just going to give this a refresh. Now there are a few questions that are hanging around in the chat, so we will wrap things up very, very shortly. Okay. All right, so what we've now got is we've got our plan. Let's just jump back into here. Let's jump into meeting notes. Here's our tasks. Let's just assign another one to Adele. Get documentation. And there we go. And there we go. So what we've got here is you can see that a new bucket has been created in that same planner plan, and it has named it tasks. So you can create multiple task lists inside of Loop, and it creates new buckets inside of Planner, okay? But if we had new pages and then we could create new tasks as well, that would be a different planner plan based on that particular page itself, all right? Now, from a tasks perspective, where this becomes extremely powerful is that, and any component that we've added on this page, even this project tracker or progress tracker, we can create instances or components just of this thing that's on this page. So we can create either an entire loop component of the page itself. So the page becomes a component. So we copy it as a loop component, and then we can copy the link. We can jump into Teams in our group conversation. Let's just say this is our intranet working group. We can grab this entire page. It's a page, but then it's a component. So it's a loop page component. Is that what you call it? But anyway, there's the entire page as a loop component, and then we can send that. So that's now, we've extracted that page out of the workspace, created a component of that page, and now we've got that embedded into our Microsoft Teams group chat. Same thing, we could do it with an Outlook email body of an Outlook meeting too. So last thing, then on to questions. We can do that not just for the entire page, but for just an instance of this task list. So let's say we wanted to extract this task list out of this page. We can create a loop component of just that task list. So I want to extract it out of here, and I then want to go and embed it into the Teams chat or into the body of an email. Or I might want to do the same thing with this progress tracker. So the progress tracker, I can jump into the progress tracker, click these little icons here, and I can create a loop component of just this progress tracker here. Then what I can do is copy the component, and then the same thing. Let's just say we want to do it in an email now. So I'm going to send this to Adele. We're going to paste that progress tracker into the body of an email. Remember, Adele likes to live inside of Outlook. So we want her to have access to the same component, but I want to meet her where she's working, which is Outlook. So we can then track your progress. We can send that to Adele. She's going to get an email, and then it doesn't matter where she is, whether she's in Loop, whether she's in Teams, whether she's in the Loop application itself. You can see there that she's just jumped into the progress tracker. Information architecture. Progress. Completed. We can then fill it out, okay? So what she's doing across in her Outlook is doing the same thing. So you can see there that she is interacting with this live component inside of Outlook, whereas Alex over here is in a Microsoft Loop. And we've just extracted that little component off this entire page, okay? Really, really powerful. And I love the way that you can just have these minute or miniature components that come off the page, and we can lift it, we can move it, they're portable, they're flexible, they're fluid, and we can just lift them up and put them into different areas as well. So extremely powerful. All right. Probably not realized right now, but once once you start to see how collaborative this is and how easy it is to get started and pull all of your resources into the single canvas, things are then going to really ramp up, and the velocity of work that gets done through these canvases is going to be huge. So what we might do now is just open up, and I see there are a few questions. So what we might do is just have a look at those questions.
Okay, Daniel, actually, there's quite a few questions here, so we may not get through them all, but we'll
Okay, no worries.
give it a go. I'll try and group them together because some of them seem to be similar. Just a
Sure.
moment. Okay. So somebody asks, will it be possible to share externally? Have not got that to work. Somebody else says, can I send a loop mail to an external person? And if yes, does he or she needs to have an M365 license?
Yeah, so externals, no, not right now. That hopefully will be on the cards. You can, though, use a personal Microsoft account and have access to Loop, but sharing externally, no, that doesn't work.
Okay, thank you. Is there an API to create fluid file or component?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you. If it's on OneDrive and the user leaves the company, does the loop disappear?
Well, it's just a file, so it follows the same processes as any other file inside of OneDrive. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The thing that I will mention there is when you create a loop component inside of Outlook or inside of a Microsoft Teams group chat, it gets stored in the creator's OneDrive. So when we're in the context of the Microsoft Loop application, then that is actually stored in a different location. So it's not actually in the OneDrive. So if I just jump back onto here quickly, what we'll see in this meeting notes component is if we open up the file location, what you can see here is from a content storage perspective, it uses a special storage component in the back end. So it's actually not part of a user's OneDrive when you're in the context of the Microsoft Loop application. But when you are creating one in Teams or creating one in Outlook or creating one in Word, then that is in a user's OneDrive.
Okay, thank you. Is it possible to develop Fluid component with Graph API functionality to work with SharePoint items?
Not that I know of yet, and I will say yet.
Okay.
I'm sure that is I'm sure that is on the cards. Well, if it's not, I hope it is.
Okay. Somebody asks, can a loop component be added in SharePoint pages?
No. Not yet.
Oh my goodness, sorry, the questions are still coming in as well.
Yeah.
Do you know if loop components will be available for local MS 365 applications, in brackets, not on the web?
Yes, they are. Yep, definitely. So inside of Outlook client, desktop client, that's available. And it is, if not already, I can't remember off the top of my head, the Word applications and the Office applications as well. But definitely Outlook, Teams, obviously. And well, the new desktop version of Outlook too. That definitely will be. And Word, if I quickly just check, just give me 2 seconds and I can answer this on the spot. from memory, it is not in the desktop version yet. Just in the online version at the moment, but it is, from my understanding, is coming.
Okay. These two questions are kind of samey, so I'll group them together. One is, how does Loop and OneNote compete / complement each other? And one is, would you say this product replaces OneNote to a large extent?
Yes and no. I think they are comparable, and it will be interesting to see how people choose to use each one. There are a lot of similarities, obviously, but the fact that the power of Loop, I think, is the portability and the fluidity of being able to move things around, and you're not restricted to just a location. The ease at which you can share and come together and have different components and have individual components on a page and share just those if you want to, or entire pages of workspaces, I think is the big differentiator there. But yes, I can definitely see a what to use when type of scenario, or you know, there might be in the future the ability, and hopefully the ability to put Loop components into OneNote, for example. But it's kind of an it depends on what to use for what purpose.
Okay, thank you. We've just kind of gone over time, but would you like to answer a couple more questions, or should we wrap it up? Or
yeah, sure. I'm okay.
Okay, we'll try and get through some more. Can I be notified if someone else changes a Loop page? Can I make alert notifications?
Not on
How can I
changes
be
to my
notified?
Yeah, not to my knowledge now. The only notifications would be if somebody mentions you in a page.
Okay. What happens to a Loop content when the user that created it is deleted? And is it possible to create Loop files to a team site?
To a team site? No, not. I'll say not yet. I can't give away too much. That is a big ask. That is a big request, and probably one of the first questions that always gets asked is around also Microsoft Teams, for example. So can we create a workspace for a team? That type of thing. That is high on the list of requests. So I can see the potential of that coming in the near future, because it kind of makes sense, right? It kind of makes sense to have a workspace available, or even maybe potentially adding a tab. You know, creating a tab as a workspace or something like that would have a huge potential.
Okay, thank you. Can you create custom templates?
Not yet. They are working on that. That is coming.
Is it possible to limit Loop component creation from Outlook in order to avoid that Loop files are created in OneDrive and force users to use the Loop application?
Well, you've got the cloud policies. So we had a look at the cloud policies earlier, and you can, let me just jump into here with these cloud policies. Let me just add a quick scope here. Quick, let's go next. So we do have the policies in here that you can restrict certain things. So if I jump into Loop here, we can see create and view Loop files in Outlook. So you could disable that from Outlook. and then that will be set to, people wouldn't be able to use loop components inside of Outlook. So you could use those policy settings.
Okay.
And the other one here up the top here is all of the Microsoft apps. So create and view loop files in Microsoft apps that support loop. So you could disable that if you wanted to as well. And then if you disabled both of these, now I haven't tested this yet, if you disabled both of those and left the loop application enabled, then you would think that that would fit that scenario.
Okay, thanks. Well, we do one more maybe. Fluid file is now stored on personal OneDrive. Is there possibility to store a Fluid file on the SharePoint document library?
No, there's not. So when you create the loop files inside of the loop components inside of Outlook or Teams, they are stored in the OneDrive. In the loop application itself, it is in a special content repository that we saw before, but not in a SharePoint document library.
Okay, perfect. I think that's all we've got time for. Daniel, thanks so much. It was an absolutely brilliant session. And to see from the number of questions you got that the audience really enjoyed it as well. So thanks everybody for joining us. And
yes, thank you very much.
Thanks,
thank you very
Daniel.
much for everybody. And yeah, look, if there are any questions or anything like that, then feel free to reach out. More than happy to answer anything on the socials or anything like that. So thank you very much for everybody.
Thanks everyone, and that marks the end of today's webinar. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Centre, and we will notify you by email when it's available. Thanks again everyone, thanks Daniel, and goodbye.